it's me. We meet here, you and I. And all of our conversations are archived in the Instagram TV. So if you'd like to go back and get caught up on all the stuff we're talking about, which of course is things like brain rewiring. We got some law of attraction sneaking in there in the back, but mostly we're focused on how are we going to rewire your brain so that you can become the you that you need to become in order to have the results in your life that you want. That's what we're doing, because the reason that your life is exactly the way it is, it's the result of who you've been being up to this point. And you've been getting the results you've been getting, taking the actions you've been taking, making the decisions, stopping yourself at certain times, All because of your wiring, which was done, kind of unconsciously as you were just sort of growing up and looking at the world and saying, oh, okay, is that what I should believe? Oh, okay, you said, okay, well, you're feeding me, so I guess I should believe it. And so we get wired, and then there's our lens that we see the world through. So if you want to change what you're seeing out in the world, you got to change the lens. Aha. So how do you change the lens? Well, you rewire yourself with your intention. And that's what we talk about. That was a long way of saying what we talk about. We call it a reset in the biz for those who might be new or those who hang out and forget why we're here. I don't know why you would forget, because I pretty much talk about the same thing all the time. So today's topic is, what's your sound of silence? I'm very aware of silence in my head because, as I mentioned in some of the more recent ones, I'm taking on this whole breathwork instruction thing, doing a lot of breath work. And so I've had the opportunity as a result of doing this to get a lot of silence, to bring my brain down to quiet time and really reach new depths of meditative states that I've never done before. But a lot of times, when we try to get silent, either with it's just meditate or just, turn everything off, silence is hard to come by. It is elusive. Do you know what I'm talking about? Trying to keep your mind quiet. Hey, just a quick interruption. If you like what you see here, be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so we can let you know the next time we post a video like this. All right, moving forward. So, are the thoughts that you have in your head, is the sound of your silence empowering or is it disempowering? Are your thoughts, when you try to get quiet and you're like, okay, here we go, I'm either going to visualize or I'm going to meditate, I just want to quiet down and get away, and you're hearing all this noise in your head that isn't silence, does it make you feel, 1, empowered, 2, disempowered? So if it's empowering, kiss the mirror. Give me an example of one of your empowering thoughts that come into your mind when you're trying to enter the silence. And I guess part 2 is, do you have trouble entering the silence? Would you rather be able to enter the silence, and even though you're having positive thoughts, you'd like to be able to just get quiet and see what that feels like? So if you're getting empowering thoughts, is there action relative to those thoughts that you're taking? In other words, when you're thinking these thoughts, do they inspire a particular action in you that is in alignment with those thoughts? So here's the deal, right? Let's just paint a picture. You've had a day. Oh man. You just want to come home and turn off everything, get into your little quiet space, take a few deep breaths and do a little meditating. Just quiet down the noise. And as you're breathing and as you're just trying to focus on whatever, just the dot or however you induce your own meditative state, you got all this sound or you got this sound going on. And maybe it's saying things like, you're awesome, terrific, and you're taking action, and, or this is your vision. Is there action that is in alignment out there in the world that is in alignment with those thoughts? Or is it just still internal? You're saying positive things to yourself, but it hasn't translated into action yet. These are all just questions. There are no right or wrong answers. Yes, and that's a factor of most people's wiring, is we tend to be trained to, assess all possibilities in any given situation, and that means the negative ones. And so depending on how we've been wired in our life experience, a lot of people tend to go negative first. Like, first, let me assess everything that could go wrong with this instead of going right. And that is, again, habitual wiring that can be changed. You can get yourself into the habit of looking at what could go right first, and then maybe you don't need to sit there and go on the entire spectrum. Because the idea is you want the feeling of things going right the way you go. It's internal but difficult to take actions. All right, so what is it? So when you try to take an action on that, I'll bet you got to get a different voice, right? Because if you've got that thought, it's empowering, and now you want to take it and put it into action, you go to put it into action. If it's difficult, that means something else comes up in your head and says, whoa, 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 I didn't really mean it. Or something like that. Like, what is that thought? I guess rather than you answering all these things, actually, these are things to consider. Because when we only have like 10 minutes together, obviously we can't do a whole big thing. So these are just things to think about. It is helping you to be aware of, again, your various layers of autopilot response. So for example, you might be rewired enough that you have positive thoughts going into your brain on, automatically when you go into a silence. But then when you try to implement them, you've got another layer of wiring that says, oh, well, if I really got to do this out in the world, now all my stuff comes up. So it's good to notice those things. I think the tweak I would want to see there is, instead of like, and this could just be semantics here, rather than giving yourself commands to believe in yourself, to keep going, the thought ideally is, I believe in myself. I keep going. It's like you're not directing yourself to do something as if you're not doing it. You're affirming to yourself that I do this stuff every day. I always keep going. I always, you know what I'm saying? Again, to train is empowering thoughts is to create a new habit of thinking, because you've got a habit of going down negative pathways or negative, thought processes, because you were wired that way, and now it's in your brain. It's literally wired in your brain. And so in order to create automatic positive responses, we have to create new wiring, which means we have to kill off that old wiring. We have to let it literally die on the vine so it's not accessible anymore. And that takes persistence and consistency, and that's why most personal development doesn't work for people, because they may get temporary results on a temporary high from enthusiasm for doing something, but unless they do have the same thoughts consistently enough to create new wiring, it will not stick. So what you need is a support system to get through at least 45 days of the same thought processes that are more empowering, that aren't the autopilot. So it means catching yourself, developing the skill of catching yourself when you're going into autopilot and creating another choice. Well, how do you know what choice to make? You've already decided that ahead of time. When does that? Oh, it's part of the Balanced Living Challenge. I didn't mention that. This is where we do all this, obviously. Well, I say obviously, for those of you who have watched this for a while, you know that the Balanced Living Challenge is my workshop. That is where you work with Bob, unless you're going to take on one-on-one coaching. That's where you get to benefit from the 20 years of experience of doing this and facilitating this transformation, and get in there with other people who are doing this. How you're going to change is you've got to send new signals on a persistent basis, which means that when it gets uncomfortable, which it will, you can't stop. And if you get flooded with emotion because of an autopilot response, you have to learn how to move through that. Do you know how to do that right now? If you don't, come and let me teach you how to do that. That's what we do. So that you can become a rewiring machine. So that you can learn to say, hey, this isn't what I'm exactly wanting right now. Who would I need to be to have what I want? What decisions would I have to make? What different meaning would I have to make? What action would I have to take that is different than the action I'm taking now? Would I have to give up a bunch of old stories? Hint, yes. Is that difficult to do? Yeah. Why? Because a whole lifetime of wiring. So tools, support system, a little bit of information, coaching, these are all the things that will do it. But if you're not willing to make the commitment for however long it takes to do the wiring, then you cannot expect other results. I don't care what program you're doing or what approach you're taking. It won't stick if the brain doesn't change, period. So we teach you how to change your brain so it'll stick. Alrighty then. If you want to learn more about what we do, the best thing to do is start with the TPT quiz. You can go to tptquiz.com/IG. That's for Instagram. So I know where you're coming from. It's helpful. tptquiz.com/IG. And then you'll learn about your transformation personality types. So you'll understand a little bit more about your wiring, why you make the autopilot decisions you do, and what you can do instead in the moment. And of course, information about the challenge. Hey, it's Bob here. If you got value out of what you saw here, please click the like button so that we know what kind of videos we can keep making for you. Also, if you're new to the channel and you haven't yet subscribed, well, I invite you to do that. It's just one click of a button, and click the notification bell so that you'll know the next time we upload a video. In the meantime, share this with friends and family that you care about, and if you'd like to catch up on some of the other stuff we've done here over the years, just click either of these videos. It'll be a good start for you. We'll see you next time.